Welcome to another edition of Bowie TV's Youth, Community, and Lifestyle. During this hour, we're bringing you highlights from some of our shows focused on youth, community, and lifestyle. Please be sure to give us a follow on all our social platforms. First up on Pitt Sports Zone, we continue to hear from high school football players across Anne Arundel County speak at their media day. Next up on Read Science, tune into engaging conversations with authors Sue Armstrong and George Johnson about the complexities of cancer. On Spotlight DMV, twin sisters Karen and Kathy preview their upcoming eco-living workshop at the Downtown Largo Festival. Finally, on the Hair Kytchen, G. Marie chats with Dr. Tracy Johnson-Rockmore about the roots of her organization aiming to change the stigma on dyslexia. As always, sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's programming of Bowie TV's Youth, Community, and Lifestyle.
What's going on, everybody? Y'all know what it is. It's your boy Pitts and Push Sports Talk Radio, Pitt Sports Zone, Bowie TV, coming to you live from Anne Arundel High School Media Day. Football season is in the mix. Y'all know it's going down. You see me out Morgan. You see me out Bowie. You know what? Now we at the high school level. Today we got me, high school, Coach Canardo Sharks. We got the guys. Like, what's going on, fellas?
Good, man.
Y'all excited? Yeah. Football season here.
It's here.
You know, when the season ended last year, you were still smelling the grass when you rode past it. So look, if you can, from my left to my right, if you can. Now, I know the organizations and schools have practices together, 7-on-7, etc., right? I don't want you to tell me about what you do collectively. I want you to tell me what have you done in the off season, either by yourself, with the trainer, or other teammates without the coaches to strengthen your game.
Answer the question now? Pick it up. It's all season. I feel like I knew you was gonna laugh, bro. I worked last year. I would say compared to this year, I worked harder. I put more work in. It's my senior year, and I just feel like I'm just trying to go all out off the field, and with my teammates, feel me, get some work in. But by myself wise, I push myself a lot, even when people tell me take a break and all that.
This off season, we as a team collectively and outside of practice, we went to Planet Fitness. We'll have us a 2 days without the coaches, even though they tell us they keep our body in shape and healthy. We still push ourselves to the limits that we know we could push.
On my own, I've been working with my trainer and some teammates, and also individually. Weight room, field work, etc. Just trying to get myself better in all aspects of the game and learning more as I go on. It's my senior year, so I'm trying to do my best.
So, as a team, the goal is always to win, right? At the end of the season, the goal is to win. What I want you guys to tell me is, what are you most looking forward to from yourselves individually this year and collectively as a team? Not just W's, but your growth outside of just W's. How are you looking to challenge each other?
As a team, I'm looking forward to, I want to say, working, getting better as not being individuals, trying to, everybody just being a team, because football is a team sport. You can't do it. We can't do it on our own. We can't do it by ourselves. So without everybody being on the same page, it's not going to work. So yeah, I just feel like everybody gets 100%, 110% effort, and hopefully we got everybody on the team that love the game and not just like it and give it they all. And individually, I'm looking to do way better than what I did last year. Have a great season and effort and execution.
As a team, I feel like we could work on. Everybody need to know their responsibilities, their jobs. I think that's going to really help us. If everybody don't know their jobs and responsibilities, then we're going to have a little minor incidents that shouldn't happen and things like that. And then individually, I'll say work on improving on what I didn't do last year that I could have did, and also having a great senior year.
As a team, I look forward to us holding each other more accountable. At the same, I feel like last year we didn't do that at all. We let little things get by, and as myself, I feel like holding myself accountable while I'm trying to hold my other teammates accountable as well. I feel like that played a big part in this year versus last year, and I went about myself.
For you, Coach. So, Coach Sharps, so what is something that you're looking for this year to see amongst your group to see if they respond to the things you've been saying off season?
Basically just how we handle adversity as a team. Just them understanding throughout the course of a game, there's going to be some peaks and valleys. You can't get and stay down in those valleys and those bad moments. So just understanding the ebb and flow of the game, understanding we're going to make some positive plays, some negative plays, but despite what happened, just continue to press forward throughout the course of the game.
I talked to a lot of coaches in the two areas that I like to highlight, right? So for me, like football 365 a day in Pittsburgh, right? We got cobblestone bricks and mountains everywhere and bridges galore. But football is something that we do all day, every day. Film study is one of the most important aspects of football, even beyond physical, right? Because mentally, if you're not checked in mentally, or if you don't know your assignment or a person's assignment next to you, then at the end of the day, we're really not putting ourselves in position to succeed, because the physical aspect is doing everything that the mental has studied to go out there and project, right? So, Coach, talk about the importance of film study that you have laid upon your players.
Film study is huge. As a coaching staff, we monitor the amount of time they spend on huddle. Them just understanding the game of football is one before you ever step on the field in your preparation. So us understanding how we prepare watching film is huge, because you pick up on tendencies and little things that can give you that edge. When you don't watch film, when you're watching film just for highlights, you're not actually learning your opponent. And I think a lot of times today, kids just watch film for highlights. You got to teach them how to study each position, understand certain tendencies if they blitzing, pressure on it. It's just a million different things you can learn through film where you're beating your opponent before the play even starts. So preparation is huge for us. Film study is huge. We spend a lot of time watching film and them just breaking it down and then relaying it back to us as a coaching staff.
What's going on, everybody? Y'all know what it is. It's your boy Pitts from Pitts and Push Sports Talk Radio, Pitt Sports Zone, Bowie TV, coming to you live from Anne Arundel High School Media Football Day. It's going down today. We got Severna Park High School Coach Nick Marks. Guys, how y'all doing today?
Good, how you doing?
So the first question that I'm asking every athlete, right? I know schools have their own programs during the off season where the team come together and work, right? But I want to know, what have you guys been doing outside of team activity to work on your craft individually outside of the facilities of your school?
Okay. So outside of workouts, I say we have a lot of bonding time together. Even after workouts, we'll get breakfast in the morning afterwards together, or we'll go to the field. We used to go to the field a lot, even before workouts even started and they were really getting amped up. We would go run routes, get the defense out there. We would try and work together as a team as much as we could outside of that before we could touch a football and include it with the coaches and everything.
Okay. 15.
I agree with him. We do a lot of team bonding. We hang out as a team to get to know each other even more as brothers, and we really get connected with one each other. And I think that's going to help us during the season.
We're always texting each other, making sure we're working, asking each other go to the gym together before workouts or anything, and just little stuff like that.
Outside of course winning this year, right? As a team goal, what are some things that you're most looking forward to in this upcoming season, personally and together?
Just the memories, I guess. After games, having workouts and the memories during it.
We're looking forward to the most is just getting what we haven't gotten in the last couple of years at Severna Park. Really making it a name for ourselves. We have the players and we have the coaching, and we just need to execute every Friday night for 9 weeks and hopefully go into the playoffs and win a game here.
What I'm looking out for the team, collectively, is effort. I want to see a lot of effort. There hasn't been a lot. I feel like there hasn't been a lot. past couple of years, but it's getting better, and that's all I want to see out of this year.
And transparency is key. A lot of, and I commend you because, when a lot of players get in settings like this, a lot of times we highlight the good. We don't really necessarily highlight the struggles that we have, not realizing and understanding that our struggles is what builds the character and what builds the endurance for us moving along the goals that you sustain, right? So when I asked you guys, what have you done in the off season? Is run to see, like, when football season is not in, are you still in football mode? Right, because I'm from Pittsburgh, so for me, every day in Pittsburgh, it was 365 days of football. It was never really a day off. Right, it was either doing something football related, watching football, or even going back to last year's tapes and just seeing what I did wrong, not necessarily what I did well, right? Yeah. Because you can always improve better on what you did well, but you really focusing on those errors or those areas where we're less than where we want to be. Is why I asked. And then secondly, when I asked you about, what are you most looking forward to individually, then team, of course we want to win. That's the end goal of everything, right? The end goal is always a W. But personally, it's like, being a football player, discipline is a part of the game. Having discipline playing football is a part of the game, right? And it helps build character. It helps build you in a way that you may never thought you would have been, challenged in that way to build you as a young man. So I appreciate you guys for asking that question. Coach Marks, how many seniors do you have returning this year?
We're going to have around 20 seniors this year.
20?
20.
Okay, it's a good number. When you look at last year's success, what are some of the things that you're looking to work on more this year that maybe didn't go so well last year?
So one thing we're going to work on, and we talked about it earlier, is finishing the game. So we played a lot of close games last year, coming down to the wire. We lost a couple close games at the end. And the goal for this year is to finish those off and win those games. And Johnny said effort, maximum effort all the way through, no let up. This is the group of guys that we've had. They were up on varsity as sophomores. We had 10 of these guys started as sophomores, 2 years ago. Now the payoff is here with those guys, 3 years on varsity. The leadership is there. This is the payoff year where we want to take that next step, get a couple more wins with these guys. This is what we've been working for, and we need to finish.
Yeah. And the payoff here is everything that you said, right? The continuous in the weight room, the continuous on field, even when you're not with your team, grabbing a teammate, going to do some cardio. What are you most looking for? Actually, you know what? Scratch that. When I talk to a lot of coaches, we always talk physical. Can you talk about the importance of the mental aspect of the game, this film study, understanding assignment and the assignments next to you?
Absolutely. So a lot of our time spent this year, we're going to take more time to actually sit down and study the film and watch our tape. Looking at the mental aspects of things, breaking it down, doing a lot of film sessions and a lot of study. We've been working a lot in our program this year, getting things out to the guys early, them to study the playbook, looking at trends from last year, studying what we've done to prepare for this year. And it is a big step to take for these guys, So it's a lot of dedication. But like I said, this is the group. So this is the 2-year payoff is these guys right here. We put a lot of time in, a lot of good bonding with these guys. They mean a lot to us as a coaching staff. We're really looking forward to seeing what these guys can do, and the growth that we've seen is amazing. And I'm really proud of these guys.
So it sounds like this year, finishing the continuity that you guys have established over the years, playing 90 minutes, right? Being physical in the fourth quarter when fatigue starts to set in, everything that plays a part into that mental fatigueness, because physical don't necessarily, it's the mental part that starts to wane. So, good luck this year, you guys. I look forward to seeing you guys hopefully more this season.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Hi everybody, welcome to Read Science, and today is the happy birthday edition. Happy birthday to my co-host Jeff, and I'm going to turn things over to him for first announcements.
Thanks very much, Joanne. Today's episode is special for reasons other than just my birthday. This happens to be the first episode of our third year doing Read Science, which I think is very exciting, and we are revisiting a topic that we first talked about nearly 2 years ago. The subject is cancer. Today's guests are author Sue Armstrong, whom Joanne will introduce in a moment, and George Johnson, author of The Cancer Chronicles, Unlocking Medicine's Deepest Mystery. George Johnson describes himself as, I'm quoting from his website, a writer working from his office in Santa Fe, New Mexico, which I'd say is true if over-modest. He also wrote that he was, quote, more comfortable with the sharp edges of cosmology and physics than the wet, amorphous, ever-changing terrain of cancer, which is pretty much how I feel about it, too, being a physical scientist, but I'm here to learn. Of his 9 books to date, the 2 next most recent were The 10 Most Beautiful Experiments from 2008 and Miss Leavitt's Stars, The Untold Story of the Woman Who Discovered How to Measure the Universe from 2005. He's been shortlisted 3 times for the Royal Society's Winton Prize for Science Writing. He's a co-founder of the annual Santa Fe Science Writing Workshop. He's written for a number of magazines that are familiar to all of us, and he is currently writing a monthly column for the New York Times called Raw Data. Thanks very much for joining us from Santa Fe, George.
Oh, thanks for inviting me.
Okay, Joanne.
Oh, and I get to introduce Sue Armstrong, who I think this hangout's been about 6 months in the works here. I was looking back at when I first corresponded with you, Sue, because I was looking, well, what do I add to her bio here? So Sue Armstrong is a science writer and foreign correspondent who has worked for a variety of media organizations, including New Scientist and BBC World Service. Since the 1980s, she has undertaken regular assignments for the World Health Organization and UNAIDS, I hope I said that right, writing about women's health issues and the AIDS pandemic, among many other topics. The author of A Matter of Life and Death, Inside the Hidden World of the Pathologist, and today's book, P53, The Gene That Cracked the Cancer Code.
You've got the wrong one there.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Back here is P53.
All you white books
there we
with
go.
spots on them. Okay, P53, The Gene That Cracked the Cancer Code, both by Armstrong, and she lives in Scotland, and we're on a little later than we planned originally. My fault. Totally my fault. You can't trust me with world clocks. Sue, welcome, and say hi to our audience.
Thank you very much. Lovely to be with you. And happy birthday, Jeff.
Thank you very much, Sue.
Yeah, Jeff, one of these years we'll hit my birthday, and yeah, we won't tell anybody my age, so we'll do that. We'll keep it a secret. That's the one old-fashioned thing I happen to like.
Yeah. Okay.
Jeff, why don't you start off with a question for our guest?
Well, and let's keep it big for a moment, because it seems to me that one theme that keeps coming up in these cancer discussions that certainly is behind every chapter of both of these books is how big the question of what is cancer, one word, but the thing's so big, and even more profound now that it's my birthday, I can recognize that and say how much cancer understanding has changed even in my lifetime. And so I'm going to quote something from George's book that I thought said a lot about that. This is your essay question. He wrote, "Things are rarely as simple as they seem, and what appears to be complex may be no more than ripples on the surface of a fathomless ocean." Oh, sounds portentous, but things have certainly changed, and the way we thought we understood cancer when Nixon was president, we'll get to that, is a lot different from the way we understand it. So, in 50 words or less, George, would you like to survey everything that's happened in the past 50 years?
Sure. I mean, really the key idea is that cancer, unlike any other disease, it's not an infectious disease, although sometimes infections can trigger a cancer, but cancer is an example of Darwinian evolution going on in your body in a very sped-up manner. And the way I like to think about it when I was writing the book is that it's almost like a little quasi-organism or a quasi-creature or would-be creature is trying to evolve inside the ecosystem of your body. And what from the point of view of us, the bodies are dangerous, deleterious mutations are, from the point of view of the cancer cell, advantageous mutations. It's becoming fitter and fitter, and to the detriment of its host. So I think the really key idea, you can trace it back, quite a few decades, but many people look at a paper written by Peter Knoll on what was called the clonal selection theory of cancer. And basically the idea is that, cancer randomly generates mutations and then they're selected for fitness. And that's why it's so extremely difficult to treat, because whatever you throw at it, it's likely to evolve a workaround.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Sue?
I would say, if I might answer that also, I would say one of the big difficulties of cancer is that in a way it's just ordinary life got a little bit out of hand.
Yes.
And that's the terrible thing about it. That's what makes it so desperately difficult to address, because it is, to a certain extent, one of the great mysteries is when you have a wound on your arm or something like that, it'll fill in the space, and somehow your body knows when the wound has reached the surface and it stops. But with something like cancer, it can be the same kind of thing. It's the same filling in holes, it's the same multiplying, and it's the same ordinary growth systems, but they just don't know when to stop. Or it's death things which don't know when to happen as well. So it takes over the general systems of living, and they just keep going. That's the problem.
You two are going to agree vehemently on this as well, that cancer is almost a thing that is just a consequence of being alive, that it is part of being alive, that it, as you say, Sue, and as George has also written, it uses all the mechanisms of living, and this is where it comes from, why it's so multitudinous in its forms, and also why most of us can't escape it if we live long enough.
Yeah, it's essentially, I'm sorry, it's again, a way I think about it, when I write about cancer, is that it's really an inevitable consequence of the fact that we're multicellular creatures and we're living in a world that's governed by entropy. Things fall apart. As things get more complex temporarily, it's only at the expense of creating disorder somewhere else, and eventually the system's going to break down. So if you don't die first of heart disease or a stroke or something like that, at some point you're going to have to die of something, and it's likely then to be cancer.
As we go back to Sue to finish this, I mentioned to Joanne that I read in the New York Times David Quammen's review of George's book, and there was an equation in it that seemed perfectly summarizing the book, and you just mentioned it. He wrote this equation. He wrote down entropy times mitosis times time equals breakdown. And I think this is something that we're going to be talking about a lot as we try to understand, I don't know, the simple view of so much going on. And now, passing back to P53 certainly has a lot of stuff going on just with this one protein and this one gene. And boy, it
does. One of the things I was going to go back, just to rewind a little bit to what George was saying. One of the things that's fascinating is, yes, if we live long enough, we're bound to get, we're almost bound to get cancer. It just happens, just because of the number of times everything's dividing. But one of the great mysteries is that very big animals don't necessarily, it's not necessarily proportionate. You don't get much more cancer in whales or in elephants than you do in human beings. So there isn't a direct relationship between how many cells you've got and how often they divide and cancer. So there are lots and lots of little mysteries. But then one of the things I found fascinating about studying biology is that it's so beautiful, and yet it's also so messy. You think you've learned something, and then something comes from around the corner that says, "Oh yes, but," and so that's the thing. You can never say.
There's always an exception.
There's always an exception. Yes. Sorry, to go back to your thing about P53.
No, that's fine. And you made me think. You were talking about large animals. That reminded me that we learned in George's book that we like to think in popular culture, I think, that cancer is a modern man-made thing that comes from living life dangerously in the 20th and 21st century. And now we find out from George that dinosaurs had cancers, that the earliest identifiable hominids had cancers. This is something that has always been around and something that happens to everyone, and again is part of life. And you gave a number. I've got it someplace about the percentage of cancer sightings in the archaeological record. But that's a pretty fascinating place to start. But we're not the only one that gets cancer, and it's not just because of, I don't know, 20th century chemical processing.
Well, yeah, that's something that was one of the big surprises to me when I started delving into this subject, back around 2010. I mean, I guess, if I knew, I knew then, if I really thought about it, that the cancer must be, something that's been there ever since you had multicellular creatures, because, cells are constantly dividing, and every time they divide, they have to copy their DNA. So inevitably, you're going to get errors, and inevitably, in an imperfect entropic world, not all of these errors are going to be corrected, which is a good thing, because it's the random mutations in our germ cells that have allowed us to evolve, and you're thinking about all these things. But the really interesting question is to what degree of the assaults of the 20th century and 21st century civilization may have increased the amount of cancer. I mean, of course we know that smoking cigarettes has, but let's say you take cigarettes out of the equation, and in one of my chapters I tried to trace back and just find the best case we can make for how much cancer there was in the past. And once you get really to the late 19th century, there's really nothing like good medical statistics and death records. There was a study in England and Wales in the late 19th century, the late 1800s, that was really the last thing that's considered even semi-reliable. And there was one paper that analyzed that and subtracted and adjusted for things like the fact that smoking cigarettes wasn't such a big thing then, or that people were more likely to get stomach cancer for various reasons. And this scientist concluded that you really couldn't make a case that cancer back then was at a different level when you made these adjustments than it was today. So controversial, because there are so many assumptions and variables.
I found that a fascinating chapter in your book when you looked at Love Canal and the assumptions that people make that, there's nasty things happening in the water and nasty things happening in the air, and there's cell phones and all this sort of stuff. It must be giving us cancer. And you so carefully sort of filleted all of that and looked at it. I found that deeply fascinating, because I know it is one of the big, it's one of the big controversies. Nobody dare say anything about about how much chance is involved in getting cancer and so on, without everybody piling in, because it's such an emotive issue, isn't it?
Yeah.
As Joanna and I were saying, we were talking about this the other day, that Bert Vogelstein and colleagues had said something which was picked up by all kinds of newspapers around the world, and just slightly mangled, and it caused a hell of a hoo-ha. And in fact, they were just looking at it, exactly the same sort of things as you were talking about in your chapter, George.
Yeah, I wrote one of my columns about that, one of my raw data columns, because I read the paper that originally I was given a copy by a friend at the National Cancer Institute, an advanced copy, and I read it and I thought, this is great. I mean, this to me just seems so obvious that there's a much larger role for randomness than entropy than most people realize, which doesn't mean you have to be fatalistic or that you can't prevent many cancers, but it's saying, let's see which ones we can prevent and let's see which ones are probably mostly the result of randomness, and then try to prevent those, and the ones we can't prevent, are the ones that maybe we can try to treat or even cure in some cases. But it was a brilliant paper, but the reaction of the public, and then when I wrote about the paper defending it, the emails I got, people are just outraged by the idea that cancer isn't caused because you're not eating kale chips, or because the Dow Chemical and maybe these are factors, but particularly kale chips are a very minor
Okay, folks, welcome to Behind the Event on the Spotlight DMV. It is your girl, Rose Johnson, and this discussion is all about highlighting the stories, voices, and impact behind the 2025 Downtown Largo Festival happening on September 6th. This year's theme is Education Behind the Fun, and it's centered on environmental stewardship, stormwater management, clean living, sustainability, all in an interactive, family-friendly workshop. And of course, art and entertainment. So before we dive into tonight's conversation, let me introduce you to two extraordinary women who truly embody the theme of this year's Downtown Largo Festival, blending creativity, culture, and sustainability. Karen Bolding and Kathy Anderson are twin sisters who have spent a lifetime in harmony with the land. Growing up, they hiked wooded trails, waded in streams, and tromped through wetlands with their siblings, foraging wild berries, grapes, and honeysuckle, and soaking in the smells and taste of summer. That early love for nature shaped not only their personal lives, but also their careers, their creative work, and their mission today. Together, they've authored a series of children's books, Fern and Ginger, Dandelions and Watermelons, Fern, Foraging in the Forest, and Ginger, Sowing and Growing, that use storytelling to introduce young readers, especially children of color, to the joys of nature, gardening, and sustainability. Karen is a career environmentalist, freelance writer, and training specialist. She's also a graphic designer and the author of several other works, including I Speak Life and Say No with a Smile. I need that book. Outside of her professional work, she enjoys crocheting, reading, and raising her teenage daughter. Kathy is a biologist, artist, and natural resource management specialist. She's also a writer and martial artist who enjoys reading, photography, and caring for her home garden. Her published works include Red and Pop, Woody, Snappy, and Terpy Swampy Party, and more. She's the proud mother of a daughter and son. These sisters aren't just authors and scientists, they're gardeners, foragers, community educators, and creators of experiences that help us all reconnect with the earth. And at the Downtown Largo Festival, they'll be leading a workshop that brings their knowledge to life in a way that's hands-on, healing, and deeply rooted in legacy. Welcome, ladies. Welcome to the Spotlight DMV.
Thank you for having us.
I'm so excited that you both are here. Welcome, ladies. I'm so happy to have you on the Spotlight DMV. Happy Thursday. Happy Wednesday. And so I want to talk a bit about how we met. We met last year at Black Women in Agriculture Conference that was organized by Kamani Anku of Gardening and Beats. And you guys had your books, and we had powerful conversations about farming and growing your own foods, and more specifically, seeds. And that conversation about seeds really stuck with me. And I know that's a conversation for an entirely different day. But let's start at the beginning. Tell us where you're from and what sparked your connection to gardening, foraging, and interacting with the land.
Well, we were born in Washington, D.C., and early on, our parents moved all of us out to Prince George's County, and we were in Suitland first and then in District Heights. And while we were in both locations, we were outdoors all the time. So we didn't watch television. So as a group of siblings, we were always running through the woods, in the streams, out and about all day, every day. And so we used to play games based on TV. The few shows we did watch, climbing trees. And so our interest in the outdoors was early on. I'm talking 3, 4, 5 years old. We were outside all day, mud pies, eating dirt, picking things off of trees. So that's basically where we got started. Our parents encouraged us to be outside, and our dad specifically was into science. He made sure we learned about fish and all the animals in the world. and all, just the environment around us.
I really love that because I had a similar childhood. I grew up with a huge park right across from my house. And like it was an expansive park in Adelphi that it's still over there now. And, we'd be all back in the woods, all in the stream, catching crayfish and whatnot. And we always used to be like, if our parents knew what we were doing. But we had a great, we'd be gone for hours out there having a great time, just making our own fun, right?
For sure. And getting home before the street light went out.
Exactly, exactly. And
Yes.
so Karen, what was your experience like growing up? What is your memory of that?
We had some fun times. Our great grandmother had would live with us from time to time, and she was one that got us out, and that's how we learned how to forage. And so she taught us what pokeweed was. She showed us how to cook it, and so we had it quite a bit growing up. And with our father, he made dandelion wine and grape vines that grew on the fence outside. And so that part, we enjoyed spending time with them, but we learned a lot too. So
Wow, dandelion wine. I've never heard of that. And you know what I find really interesting? I've been having conversations about people of color in the winemaking and spirits industry. And some of the conversations we've had are about like some of our wines from, fruits and things like that. And that those types of techniques and ingredients not necessarily being respected, in the wine world. So tell me a little bit more about dandelion wine. I'm interested.
of course, being young, we couldn't sip but so much. um, but as we got older and he got older, he didn't do it as much. But the other thing he taught us was sun tea. And so now we heat up our tea and our water. What he did was he made tea, put it out on the porch, and let the sun um, dissolve
Or
it and
steep
make
the tea in the sun.
steep the tea. That's basically. And so we grew up on that also. And so just a lot of the things that we had and we ate was out in nature. My mom went to farming marketplaces in DC, the Oak Street Market, and where she got our fresh vegetables. The grocery store wasn't a big deal unless we couldn't find it at the market.
Mm-hmm. And I know you guys talk a lot about passing down information from the elders, the things that you've learned, recipes for all kinds of things. When did that become something you were passionate about?
I would say, I mean, it was early because one of the things that we have is we have allergies. So we always had to be careful with what we ate. We were athletes as well. So we played all kinds of sports all year round. So we knew we couldn't eat junk all day. Our parents didn't really have us eating junk food. Our mom was big on making sure we had vegetables.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things is whenever she made cabbage, I would take the cabbage root and I would eat it. I would eat it raw.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah. So between that and then whatever fruit was, off the cherry tree, or we had a grapevine growing in our yard, so we were always eating grapes. But for the most part, it was from our elders. Our parents made sure we ate well. When we stayed with our grandmother, she did the same. She made corn pudding. We had traditional, I would say, Eastern woodland foods. So we were eating oysters. We didn't eat a lot of fried foods growing up. And so being at our grandmother's house a lot, and she was in Northwest DC, right by the park, being outdoors around where she lived. But for the most part, she didn't have a bunch of chemicals in her house. She was born in 1916. So she got along fine with without the trappings of today.
Yeah.
And so we saw that. And that was our influence.
Yeah, speaking of that in general, My parents, I'm a first generation American. And so when my parents came here, I remember my mom making coconut milk. And at that time, that was not something you could just go buy from the store. So I remember her having to break open the coconut and then gratering it and making the coconut milk. And mind you, we lived down the street from a McDonald's, but that was not something that was a part of what we ate, or that was like something special. We used to have to beg. We had to beg for that. But my parents didn't believe in they didn't grow up that way. So that wasn't something that they were used to, going out to buying fast food. Everything was cooked fresh, whether it was the same meal of what I remember my dad, he used to be like, chicken again. But it was fresh food made from fresh coconut milk and things like that. So yeah, I have a similar experience with not being exposed to a lot of processed foods and things of that nature when I was growing up. Of course, then when you take charge of your own your own diet and your own having to take care of yourself, that can kind of change. And so let's talk about that piece of it, about why you feel that it's important to pass this on to other people, because most people, they just do what they did growing up, but you are reaching out to the community to educate. Why do you feel that that's important?
I think it's important because at this day and age, we have been, in a sense, brainwashed to eat what's available now, what's easy. And so the fast food joint, we have moved away from nature and what's been provided for us, all the chemicals that they're using now, petroleum based, it's making us sick. And so they put these products out without testing, and we end up getting sick. And we later find out, oh, here are all the lawsuits now
Yeah.
because we're getting sick. So we have to go back to what our grandparents did. And so that's what we use. We make our products at home now. Kathy has been really big on it, much longer than I have. And so, but together now we make our own concoctions for cleaning, for washing, for skin care and hair. Like I haven't bought toothpaste or lotion in about 30 years now.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Wow.
And so, and plus with our allergies, we had to move away from things. And even now, it's like if you buy, like say, if I don't have time to make it or get it from Kathy, I would get laundry detergent and buy the so-called free and clear. Well, I changed brands and then wondering why I'm itching all over. And so this is a recent thing. And so I've had to go back to the original brand and I feel better now. But last week was rough because even though it says it's free and clear, it still isn't. And you have to find what works for you by reading the ingredients. And if you know what it is, guess what? Don't buy it.
I know that is a large part of what we're going to be talking about as far as the workshop at Downtown Largo Festival that you will be leading. But before we get to that piece of it, and I do want to reiterate that we are here to talk about Downtown Largo Festival and the hands-on workshop that Kathy and Karen will be leading on September 6th at the festival. There are 2 sessions of the workshop, and we will get into what it's going to be all about. But I want our audience to get to know who you are, because you guys have been in this game for over 20 years. And you just told us about your background growing up and connection to the land and learning from your family, from your elders. But you also have some background in science as well. So talk to us about that.
Okay. For the most part, I'm a biologist, and I've always been focused on the outdoors. And one of the things I'll just add to that is being outdoors barefoot. We didn't wear shoes all the time, so just running around, feeling the grass, squishing your toes in the soil was my thing. But as a career biologist, my focus for most of my career was wetlands, streams, water bodies. So I was always in the woods. I was out on the boat, in the bays, in the ocean sometimes, but trauma through the swamps was the main part of what I did.
Welcome to another episode of the Hair Kitchen. And today's guest is going to share some very interesting information with us. I'm so excited to have her here. And to introduce her, I'm going to give you a little snippet about what she's all about. For millions of adults, dyslexia isn't just about letters on a page. It's an everyday journey of resilience, hidden struggle, and often untapped strengths. In this thought-provoking episode, we talk with Dr. Tracy Johnson-Rockmore, educator, advocate, and author of Journey of Hope, an everyday guide for adults with dyslexia. Diagnosed later in life, Dr. Johnson-Rockmore turned her own challenges into a mission to help others move beyond shame and discover the creative, big picture thinking dyslexia can bring. Today, we explore the emotional toll dyslexia can carry on into adulthood, small changes that can make a big difference at work and at home, how to flip the script and embrace neurodiversity as a source of strength. Whether you're living with dyslexia, know someone who is, or simply want to understand the power of difference, this conversation will leave you reflecting, inspired, and hopeful. And without further ado, welcome to the show, Dr. Tracy Johnson-Rockmore. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Yes, I'm so grateful that you said yes. And since your yes, I have started to just think back about people that I know, experiences that I've had, and can say it's a lot of people that are struggling when they're willing to share with you that they're struggling. And you've shared with so many people. What made you say, I'm going to make this, or how did this become your life's work? Because you've been at this for a long time.
I have. My desire, I didn't want anybody to go through the pitfalls of the depression, low self-esteem, bouts of suicide, and just feel like my life was spiraling down because of a learning difference. I didn't want anybody to feel like that. And once I was identified and diagnosed as having dyslexia, that God just gave me that mission. Like, I wanted to share, my story, and also what hope there is, because there's hope. It's not the same. I'm dyslexic. I can't learn. I can't comprehend. I can't live a productive life, because there are a lot of dyslexics out there, movie stars, actresses, people doing all kinds of things that are doing great things in this world. And if we didn't have that dyslexic mind, there's a lot of things that in this world we probably wouldn't have today. Einstein was dyslexic. Whoopi Goldberg's dyslexic. There's a whole list of people with dyslexia, but are doing some amazing things in this life. And again, I don't want the everyday, quote unquote, average person with dyslexia feeling like they have no hope. So that became my mission when I found out what I was struggling with.
How old were you when you found that out?
I was out of high school. I struggled in middle school, high school, all throughout life. And actually, Marie, my mom is her aunt, so she didn't know. A lot of single parents, or parents in general, if you
count on the system,
you don't know. Yes, they count on the system and thinking that they're properly educating their child, or thinking that they know best by doing whatever test that they're saying that they're doing, and then just not really coming up with the right diagnosis. So I was identified, but not identified as being dyslexic. They just said I had a learning difference. And I was deficient in reading. I was deficient here, deficient there, but that's telling a person you're sick, but not really diagnosing what the sickness is and what the treatment would be.
what the treatment will be. And when you said that,
so that's where the struggle really began. And you know, I'm internally, I knew rather that I was bright, but I didn't know how to access it. I didn't have the right tools.
In your book, and the first book you wrote was The Guide, correct?
Yes.
And then you recently wrote Flip the Script.
Yes.
Okay, so in your book, you said dyslexia doesn't make reading harder. It teaches us to think differently, solve creatively, and see what others miss. Talk to me a little bit about the different type of thinking and what we're missing, those of us who may not be struggling with dyslexia.
So oftentimes individuals with dyslexia, we kind of see more of a big picture. We see kind of the whole, where those little details, most people that are avid readers or not struggling with dyslexia, you see those, when you read those words, you can picture some of those images and it comes off the paper and it comes alive. We can't see that. We just see just blanket picture of words that may become jumbled, that may become convoluted. We may skip over words. We may infer words that are not there. So we're not getting that picture. We're not getting that movie, as they say, as we read. So, but what we do see, not so much in our reading, but in other areas, we see more kind of, I guess, more the world as a whole. We can be more creative. We see maybe a blank space and begin to create things in that space that the average person that's more seeing details won't see. So we can be those great architects, artists, even musicians, because we kind of see the world differently in that aspect.
Okay. I like that. That's very interesting. That's very creative, if you will. So you also said healing starts when you stop asking what's wrong with me, and you start asking what's strong with me. I really like that quote because it was showing the resilience and seeing the strength in the situation or the diagnosis, as opposed to as a hindrance or something to be ashamed of. But I can only imagine with those struggling with dyslexia who may not be as educated or have had exposure to the resources that help them to move on. But what's strong with me? Talk a little bit about that.
Because a lot of times when, especially dealing with young children and adults, we always see that struggle, and internally we feel that struggle, but not really honing in or really accessing those strengths, or maybe not even knowing your strengths, trying to really figure out what your strengths and what your gifts are, because God gave us all gifts. Try to find and tap into those gifts, because those gifts are where you're going to thrive and where you become alive, where you really become alive in those gifts and those strengths, because you were focusing on the difference in the struggle so much, it makes life hard. And it does. But when you begin to really take time to focus on those gifts and find out what those gifts are, you actually begin to thrive in those areas. You begin to, not knowing in those when we begin to thrive in certain areas, we get more confidence, we get more self-esteem, we get more resilience, because now we know I'm not just dyslexic. I have all these other strengths. I can do this or I can do that. Even I tell people in the book, like, highlight your strengths, even when you're going for job interviews, things like that. Yes, I may need this support over here, but let me tell you what I bring to your company. Let me tell you what gifts and strengths I bring to this company, or what I can do for this company.
Absolutely.
And most of us are the most hard-working people that you can see in the room, in the classroom, in the job. We work harder because a lot of times we know we have to.
What was your biggest? Oh, okay. Excuse me. My gift is What was your once you got past that point and you started to build the confidence because now, oh, that's what my challenge is. I can learn like this because I learn differently from the average person who picks up a book. What was your biggest gift that you realized and you're like, hindsight, if I had known this, I could do this. What's your biggest gift?
Now, honestly, it's teaching and speaking. Something that I would have never thought.
Really?
Never thought. No.
Wow.
Never thought. Never thought. But when I began to get the tools that I needed to understand how I learned, I wanted to teach not just that, but whatever that gift was, I wanted to teach others. I teach at a college now. I teach the intro level to one of the courses there. And a lot of my students that I interact with, I share with them about a couple of videos that I did about my struggle. And a lot of them, because these are adults coming back to school, a lot of them are dealing with the same struggle.
Wow.
So that there is like, God, thank you, because I can give back to them and show them like, look, you can get through this. It may be hard and challenging, but you can get through this. Because a lot of them are single parents coming back, trying to do better for them and themselves and their children.
If you, in your class, you said a lot of the adults, if you had 20 students in your class, what percentage of the students would you say, or the adults in your class, realize they might be dealing with some form of dyslexia?
Honestly, dyslexia is 1 out of 5. 1 out of 5 individuals actually deal with dyslexia, probably undiagnosed. It's the highest learning difference that exists.
Okay.
And again, I often say, you don't grow out of it because you're out of school. You're still dyslexic.
I know, I saw that. It doesn't go away. It's not like allergy. I outgrew my shrimp allergy or my milk allergy. No, it's lifetime from what you said.
But a lot of people think so. They think if my child got the resources when they were younger and things like that, they no longer have it. No, you end up, you were able to get them diagnosed. Thank God you were able to get them identified at an early age, but it still exists. They probably will still have those challenges, not as severe as someone that was undiagnosed and not being able to get the actual tools that they needed, but it still exists.
Mm-hmm. So when speaking in the workforce, because people can request accommodations and things like that. If I'm an adult dealing with dyslexia and I go to my employer and tell them I have dyslexia, what kind of accommodations should I expect? Well, you're shaking your head. No, I'm not getting any. You're not getting none.
It depends on where you work, honestly.
Oh my God.
It's unfortunately to be identified, get diagnosed out of school. The cost of it is crazy. It's about maybe $2,000 now, $3,000 or up to get identified.
Does health insurance cover that?
You might have to look into it. Possibly, it may not cover all of it though.
I kind of
so
felt
that's
like
why a lot of adults don't even get identified and they struggle. Some of them end up losing their jobs because if you go to HR, they're going to need the proper documentations in order for you to get the minimum support.
Exactly.
And that's the sad part. We are covered under the Americans with Disabilities Act, but however, you have to have the proper documentations to go to the HR department and ask about getting accommodations.
So the association, and tell me what it is. There's a organization that helps.
Oh, well, the International Dyslexia Association, it doesn't help identify individuals, but it does give a lot of resources.